All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're breaking down a revolution. Because in the third quarter of 2025, the whole world of AI and art, it hit a tipping point. This was the moment where all those abstract debates suddenly became billion-dollar lawsuits, and the future of creativity itself was basically put on trial.
For the longest time, all this talk about AI and art felt kind of academic, right? Well, in Q3 2025, that all changed. The door on the Wild West era officially slammed shut. All those theoretical arguments suddenly crystallized into cold, hard legal cases with very, very real billion-dollar price tags. This was the moment the bill finally came due.
So, what was the spark? What lit the fuse on this whole thing? Well, it was a massive explosion in what AI could actually do. The technology went way beyond just making pretty pictures, and in doing so, it dramatically raised the stakes for everyone, pushing into completely new creative territory.
And just look at this. The tech was moving at a breakneck pace. We're not just talking about still images anymore. Midjourney started turning pictures into video clips. Stability AI dropped a model that could whip up a 3-minute song. And this is super important, they made a huge deal about it being trained on a fully licensed dataset. Meanwhile, Google's Gemini made creating an image as easy as talking to it. You could literally just say, hey, make that car a convertible, and then, okay, now make it yellow. The tools got way more powerful and way more dangerous, all at the same time.
And this slide right here, it perfectly captures the central conflict of the entire quarter. Midjourney rolled out a feature that artists had been begging for: character consistency. I mean, it's a total creative game changer if you're trying to make a comic or a storyboard. But for the lawyers over at Disney, that same exact feature became their smoking gun. It was Exhibit A, proof that the model could in fact copy specific trademark characters with scary precision.
So, all this new tech, this creative arms race, it was inevitable, really. It spilled right over into the courtroom, onto a legal battlefield. And for the very first time, we saw a price tag, a huge one, slapped on the practice of training AI on copyrighted data without asking.
$1.5 billion. Let that sink in. If you remember one number from this entire quarter, this is it. This was the proposed settlement in the huge case against the AI company Anthropic, and man, it sent absolute shockwaves through the entire industry.
Okay, so here's the really important part, the nuance. The court was super specific. This wasn't a ruling against training AI on books in general. No. It was about training AI on stolen books, from pirate libraries. The judge basically said, look, you can't build your futuristic technology on stolen goods and then turn around and claim fair use. That one decision completely changed the risk calculation for every single AI developer out there.
And right as that was happening, a whole new legal front burst open. You've got the heavyweights, Disney, Universal, and Warner Bros., all ganging up on Midjourney, but their target was different. They weren't just focused on the training data. They were pointing at the final images coming out of the machine and calling it, and I quote, a bottomless pit of plagiarism.
So how did Midjourney hit back? Well, they had a two-pronged defense. First, the old standby, fair use. They argued their AI learns concepts from data just like a human artist learns by studying art history. But then they threw a real curveball, an accusation of hypocrisy. They claimed the studio's own employees were using Midjourney on the sly, basically saying, you can't sue us for doing something you're secretly benefiting from. And boom, the stage was set for an epic courtroom showdown over what the AI was actually making.
But this whole story isn't just about giant companies and lawyers and expensive suits. What about the actual artists? The writers, the illustrators, the people caught right in the middle of this tech tsunami? Well, their response has been complicated. It's this messy mix of fear, adoption, and some really organized pushback. And this chart really tells the story. It's a community that is completely torn. You have a clear majority, over 60%, who see AI as a direct threat to their livelihood. I mean, who wouldn't be? But at the very same time, you have almost half the people saying, yeah, but this could also be a really positive thing for art itself. It's not black and white. Artists are wrestling with this huge opportunity and this massive existential risk all at once.
So to deal with all this chaos, you've got the professional groups like the Authors Guild and the Graphic Artists Guild banding together, and they've come up with a really clear list of demands. It boils down to 4 key things: consent, compensation, control, and transparency. They're trying to build a new set of rules for this new world, one that empowers the creators, not just the tech companies. All this pressure from the courts, from Hollywood, from the artists themselves, it is finally forcing a change. We are entering what you could call a new age of accountability. Everyone from regulators to the companies themselves is scrambling to figure out how we can trust what we see in a world that is increasingly full of AI-generated stuff. And as this happens, we're seeing two totally different philosophies take shape. Over in the US, the approach is pretty much let the courts handle it. They're letting judges apply old copyright laws to this brand new tech. But the EU? They're going the opposite way. They're writing the rulebook from scratch with things like the EU AI Act, trying to build formal systems so creators can officially opt out. It's creating this really messy, complicated global puzzle for AI companies to solve. So, how do you solve this trust problem on a technical level? Well, there's this new standard called C2PA that's getting a ton of momentum. Honestly, the best way to think of it is like a digital nutrition label for a photo or a video. It's information that's literally baked into the file itself, and it can show you where it came from, who made it, and how it's been edited. It's a way to prove if something is real or if it was made by an AI.
And then you have a move that might be more powerful than any law Congress could pass. Google, the gatekeeper of the internet, weighed in. They basically announced that if you want your AI-generated content to rank well in search results, a human being needs to have reviewed it. That move alone creates this huge financial incentive to not just flood the web with cheap, low-quality AI spam, it puts a real premium on human oversight. So, let's pull it all together. What's the bottom line from this whole reckoning? First, we learned that piracy has a price, and it's a multi-billion-dollar one. Second, the legal fight has shifted from how the AI is trained to what it actually creates. Third, transparency is no longer a nice-to-have, it's a demand. And finally, we're seeing the first real pieces of an accountability puzzle, both technical and corporate, being put into place. The Wild West is being tamed.
You know, this quarter really did set a new stage. It drew new lines in the sand, established new rules and new risks. But it leaves us wrestling with a really deep question, one we're all going to have to answer. In a world where a machine can generate endless, beautiful, and convincing copies, what does originality even mean anymore? And who really gets to own the future of creativity?